Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber, and my good mate, Noel Tom. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back with a new season. We're jumping straight into season 4. And we've got a great first guest and lots of other great guests lined up. Probably for the first time ever, we've actually been a little bit more organised and we're booking people into February now, which is pretty cool. Lots of great stuff to look forward to this year. Hopefully we're starting to move towards some better weather, starting to plan some trips and attendance at festivals. We're going to be at both the ABR and the Lightweight Adventurous Festival. We're actually curating a stage at the Lightweight Adventurous Festival. It was absolutely brilliant last year. It's a fairly small festival, really good fun. I think I must have talked to everybody that was there, and it was a really good laugh. I think it's going to be a bit bigger this year, but small enough still to be a right good laugh. So if you haven't got tickets already, get onto their website and get some. We'll see you there. So today we're joined by the one and only, the girl on a bike, Vanessa Ruck. Let's jump straight into it. So Vanessa, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You must be the biggest star we've ever had on the podcast.
Don't be silly. You say that to everyone, don't
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I like the flattery, though. Good try.
You've already given away your classic first question by calling Vanessa.
Oh, yeah, I could have done the girl on a bike, Vanessa Ruck. Is Vanessa your real name? That's a thing we do.
Oh, we need a drum roll for that.
Along with the spanner question. I could always edit it out and try again. So, please welcome the girl on a bike, Vanessa Ruck. Is Vanessa your real name?
It is. Yes. Hey. I think the first one was way better.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Really glad you could join us from a bit of a sojourn in the Outer Hebrides, I believe.
Yeah, I sure am. I'm up here visiting a friend and it is absolutely beautiful. I think it would put the Caribbean out of business if it was about 20 degrees warmer.
Yeah, that's the thing, because the seas and the beaches are absolutely beautiful, aren't they? They look positively Caribbean.
Yeah. I was out kayaking today, surrounded by a good 12 seals, all just popping their heads out, wondering what we're doing.
Which island are you on?
South Uist.
Is it wild and windy?
It's actually been super beautiful today. We've got a storm coming in tonight, but I think the most exciting part was actually landing on the aircraft into Barra Island, and for a moment thinking we were doing an emergency landing, because I think it's the only commercial scheduled airport in the world that lands on a beach. And so you're coming in low, looking for the runway, and you're like, there is no runway? No. What's happening? And we literally landed on the beach. So
nobody warned you about that?
Well, I probably could have done my homework, but I just got on the plane, which was tiny, and just went with it, you know?
That's terrifying. We were just saying earlier before we did the intro that you've done a few podcasts already and you have got an amazing story as to how you got into biking. So I'm going to recommend a couple of podcasts that people can go to and listen to. But do you want to tell us briefly your journey into motorcycling, how you came through a fairly nasty accident, ended up jumping on a bike after being in a big bike accident?
Yeah, I guess it's a pretty unusual journey, and I think a lot of the listeners will probably relate to the fact that so many of us have huge battles in life. And yeah, I faced one of those. I was a super active sports person, really active, kite surfing, wakeboarding, snowboarding. And unfortunately on my bicycle, cycling home from work one day, I got hit by a red light jumping car. And in that moment, life as I knew changed. I was not a bleeding mess, but I really wasn't in a great state. And if we kind of condense the story effectively, it was a 7-year recovery with 7 surgeries, like a roller coaster, 1 surgery every year for 7 years. And I've now got a reconstructed right shoulder and right hip. And I live and manage chronic pain in my right hip as a result. So the accident kind of sadly will never fully be in my past. But through my journey, which while physically has been brutal, has actually been harder on the mental health recovery side of things. But through that journey, somehow I discovered motorcycles. And yes, my mum was really not impressed when I decided I wanted to motorbike. I got nearly killed on a bicycle. And then I thought, why not get an engine and go back out there? I was diagnosed with fear of the road, like literally as a mental health thing. I had huge battles to get back out on the road. But I kind of just took this mission that it was an accident and I could not let it control the rest of my future. And I suppose motorcycles were something that was so new to me. I had had a little bit of a motorcycle experience before the accident, but it was something that I couldn't compare the old me to the new me on, because I wasn't an active biker. I'd never been off road. And so I didn't know how my old body felt. And there was something really empowering about not having the comparison. So if I go back kite surfing, which I actually have now done, I compare my body to how it used to be, and my body hurts, and my body's not as capable, and my brain doesn't do nice things to myself with that environment. But yeah, the bikes have just become this completely new, absolutely disgustingly addictive obsession, really. And I think probably you're nodding like you understand that, but there's something so exhilarating, adrenaline everywhere, the sweat, the pain, the frustrations. And when I think about the sort of the pain I have in my body and what it takes to ride a motorcycle, when I'm on that bike, particularly now racing, I've started racing in the last couple of years, I don't have the capacity for anything but surviving that moment. And it's almost, I don't want to say it's like an escapism, because it means that it kind of makes it sound like I'm trying to escape my life. I'm not. I'm so grateful that I'm still alive and that I've been able to get my body back to a point where I can do these things, living and managing with the pain, but I can. But there's just something about bikes that sets my soul on fire, really, I suppose.
It's interesting you say that, actually, because my experience is similar with motorcycling, because it's almost the level of concentration you have to put into it is almost like you have to get into like a meditative state, because unless you do that, you're going to fall off or hit something, right? So it is pure concentration. Everything else is forgotten, and you're there in the moment. And I went out a couple of days ago, and my wife said to me, listen, go out for as long as you like, just come back in a better fucking mood, will you?
Yeah, she was completely fed up with you. Was there any part of the accident Vanessa, was there a head injury involved at all, or was it just your shoulders and hips?
So there's a debate as to whether that did happen, but I don't really know, because there's a moment of gap in my memory of the accident. I can still see it so vividly even now. What are we, like 8 years on? But no, it was really my shoulder, my hip. I dislocated my finger, bruised my knee, had like quite a bit of bruising.
Do you feel it's changed your personality quite dramatically, do you think?
As far as my personality, as far as being like dropped on my head like a child or something, I think no, not in that ways. But as far as my self-preservation, my understanding of how much things hurt, I definitely think my personality's changed. There's a few areas to this. Okay, so before the accident, my husband would have described me as having like a silly switch, where you put me on a skidoo or in a car or kite surfing, whatever it is, and this like little red switch in my head goes off, fear disappears out the window, self-preservation, like I'm doing it, dog after a stick. That doesn't exist anymore for me, sadly. I have learnt ways to try and counter manage the fears of getting hurt again, but I'm not got quite the same recklessness as I used to have. So there's other ways where I think my personality's changed, where actually I'm pretty grateful for it. If I go back and look at how I was before the accident to now, in a weird way, I'm almost grateful that it happened, because of things like gratitude. Actually, you don't realize how incredible some of the things are around you, or how being able to walk to the toilet or put your own socks on or brush your own hair or go outside and sit in the garden, get on a bike, all of those things you just take for granted. And when you suddenly can't do those, you get a massive reshift of actually, even in those moments where you feel like the world is an awful place, there actually is always something to be grateful for. Things like what's worth fighting over and crying over, getting upset about, what's worth arguing with your husband about. It's like none of this even matters in the scheme of life. And I just feel like it's shifted some perspectives in a really good way in some ways. Even things like working. I used to work like 66 hours a week in an office for no extra money, for like, well, maybe a little bit of extra money, but for what? Why did I need that little bit of extra money? Actually, it's not money that makes me happy. It's experiences, it's friendships. And the accident has helped me see that.
I spent a lot of time in hospital as a kid, and even sort of as an 8-year-old, I remember coming out of it thinking everyone should go into hospital for a week, because it does, like you say, completely shift everything. You come out of it saying yes to everything, just really taking everything, well, not taking everything for granted, really. It's a little bit like I always think when you have a cold and you can't breathe through your nose anymore, and you suddenly think, isn't it great when you can just breathe easily? I mean, it's slightly different with a cold, because when you do get over it, you completely take it for granted again. But you do need that a little bit, don't you, I think? A little bit of time in hospital. That's what we all need.
I'm not looking forward to having to be part of your care team, Noel. I'm really not. And it's not that far away, is it, to be honest?
It's not, no. Staring down the barrel.
So I guess 2 questions is, the first one is, you went from a bicycle accident to jumping on a motorbike, which are notoriously far more dangerous than bicycles, although, yeah, my injuries on bicycles are probably worse than on motorcycles, to be fair.
Well, what do you think about that, Vanessa? Do you think push bikes are more dangerous than motorcycles?
I think it depends on context. If you take a bicycle and a motorbike on the road, I personally feel safer on a motorbike because, firstly, you are a recognised and accepted member of the public highway. You're not like this underdog that shouldn't be there, who doesn't pay the road, fingers in the air thing, because obviously we know it's not. But, you know, you're accepted in the road system as a motorbike. And you've got size on your side, you've got noise to help you be seen, and most importantly, you've got the right kit on if you come off, and you've got the power to get you out of where you are if you need to. If you suddenly need to be gone, a twist of that wrist and you can be gone in a lot of situations, not always. So I personally feel safer on a motorbike than on a bicycle. Obviously, when you start, put you in a hard enduro race, motorbike's a little bit risky, but it's your risk and it's your calculated risk. It's your control, your skill, not a sorry mate, I didn't see you. I kind of sort of shift around on the fence as to which way.
Yeah, it's not straightforward, is it really? But
although on my mountain bike the other day, I've recently got back into mountain biking, discovering e-bikes, which my hip can handle, which is amazing. But my shin, when my foot slid off the pedal going down a step, would argue that bicycles are way more dangerous.
Are you on a full suspension electric bike or a hardtail?
Yeah, full suspension.
Everybody buys full suspension. Nobody would be stupid enough to get a hardtail electric bike, no.
Well, I've been stupid enough to try a full suspension, even though I've got a hardtail electric bike, and it's unbelievable, aren't they?
I feel like I've just come into some kind of thing that's happening here.
Oh, God, there's all sorts of things going on between me and Noel. Don't worry about it. So what was the thinking then? How did you go from the lying in the hospital to thinking, right, a motorbike is what I need? Was it kind of a fuck you to the world, I'm going to show myself and the world that I'm not scared, or was there more to it than that?
No, it was entirely down to practical thinking. Vanessa not really relating what her idea actually involved. I've started to realize that that escalated is quite a good tagline for me. I get myself into all kinds of ridiculous situations somehow. I just kind of say yes and come up with crazy ideas. And so I was at one of the points between surgeries where I was a little bit more physically able, not able to do sports, so I couldn't cycle to work. I mean, I wasn't able to get back and cycle for many, many years. It was only literally last year that I've properly started cycling again with an e-bike. And I worked in central Oxford. I used to cycle rain, shine, wind, hail, snow. I got on that bike and I cycled to work, 16 miles round trip every day. If I wanted to be lazy and not cycle, I had to get out of bed earlier because of the traffic. So you weren't lazy, I cycled. And because I wasn't able to cycle, I was battling traffic in a fuel guzzling car, struggling with parking in the city centre. And I, kind of on a Friday night thought, I know, why didn't I get a motorbike? It was genius, save money on fuel, parking, time in traffic, all these kind of things. What Vanessa wasn't thinking at this time is actually what that means. You've got to go on the road on a motorbike. Went out and it was fate. There was a little Suzuki Bandit 600 in my town, really reasonable price, good condition. Anyway, fast forward, I then had to ride this thing, and I can't emphasize enough how terrifying it was. Every part of my survival instincts, my self-preservation was like, you're gonna die, this is ridiculous. I remember a moment sat on the bike crying in my helmet, shouting at myself like, come on Vanessa, you're not gonna die, you're absolutely fine, like you've not even left your driveway.
But was this the first ever bike you'd ridden?
No. So I did actually have a bike when I was 20. I was living on a remote island in the Bahamas, was a student. I couldn't afford a vehicle. And I thought I'll get a motorbike to get around the island. And it was a little 250 Chinese thing. And I strapped my spearfish down the side, fins and snorkel on the back. And I buzzed around the island for about a year while I lived there. Never remember learning to ride it or anything like that. And honestly, I didn't get biking. It was purely a means of transport. I was absolutely useless on it, but it got me from A to B around the island. Came back to the UK and I thought, probably should do my full license. So did that, shelved it, and had no intention of getting a bike because I was a student. I was getting into my first job. I didn't get biking. I couldn't afford a car and a bike. And yeah, it wasn't until that moment post-accident where I thought, well, maybe that will be a great way to get around the commute. And I'd say the first time, 10th time, 50th, 200th time, it scared the life out of me getting on that motorbike. It was horrific. And honestly, even now, 8 years on, I still have my moments.
Yeah.
I still have moments in cars as a passenger where it's normally when something moves from the same direction that the car that in the accident came from, and it's like bam. And it's taken a lot of mindfulness. The mindfulness is something that I've used hugely with my mental health recovery in lots of areas, particularly strongly in the managing and living with pain. But the mindfulness has hugely helped me in overcoming the fear and the anxiety of being on a bike, getting back on the road. And I mean, the reality is that the lady that hit me absolutely changed my life. She took away my body as I knew it. She's changed me irreversibly for the future. In some ways, I'm a little bit grateful. I'm a slightly nice person probably now. If I'm allowed to say that about myself. Awkward. But physically, I'm very different as well. And I couldn't let her, I think I said it before already, but I just couldn't let that past control my future. And I had to be determined that I was going to get over it. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I knew it wasn't going to get easier in one ride. I had to keep getting on that bike and normalizing it. And it's like anything that we're scared of in life. When you first meet, I don't know, a spider or a snake, they're terrifying. And then you start to realize, with time, a bit more exposure, you start to normalize yourself to things that are scary. Like the first time you're in a wood on your own and it's dark. No,
not snakes. No, they can fuck right off.
Oh, woods. Would not go in the woods on my own in the dark.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I used the wrong examples. What about teddy bears? They're pretty terrifying.
Noel and I have both been riding motorbikes since we were kids. And I think that attitude that every time you get on a bike, you kind of think about what could possibly go wrong. I almost make myself do that every time before I go out, because it is a case of basically most accidents are caused by people on sports bikes going too fast, below the age of 25. And you just have to tell yourself, or I have to tell myself every time I go out, don't be a dick.
And we're always on high alert, aren't we, after a European trip, that last sort of half day home. Which we're always reminded is the most dangerous part, and it often is, isn't it?
Yeah. 10 minutes from home. That's where, 10 minutes leaving or 10 minutes on the return. Yeah. So I think it's a good attitude, Vanessa, to have, that something could happen. Be careful, and certainly don't ever go in a race. That's for sure.
Uh-oh.
So before we get on to the racing, though, you you went from a Bandit. And I think you went onto a Harley, didn't you? I think you've still got the Harley now. So what was your journey into dirt biking?
I was bedbound after my third surgery, first on the hip. And for whatever reason, Vanessa's that escalated tagline hit. And I turned around to my husband. I was like, can I get a dirt bike? And he's like, what? Look at you. And I'm like, yeah, but it'd be really fun. And he's really supportive. So we went out and got me a little WR250. And it was apparently going to be an ideal first-person kind of trail riding, bit of green laning sort of bike. It's 5 months till I could even sit on it. But it was there as a goal, as a reminder, as something to keep me motivated when I had those days where I was just in so much pain. I didn't want to do my physio. I couldn't find the energy to move. I had that bike as a reminder of, come on, Vanessa.
What put that idea in your head to get a dirt bike?
to this day, I do not remember. My husband claims he planted a seed, but I just don't believe it because he wasn't into bikes or anything. And it was such a shock reaction when I said to him I wanted to get one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I should give him the glory of that idea, but I don't know. Maybe I had some kind of dream or I saw something on telly. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful for wherever it came from.
I have it on good authority. He's a bit of a demon rider as well these days, isn't he?
My husband?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty badass. He's annoyingly good, to be fair, because so we started riding off-road at the same time. I then had 4 more hip surgeries. So, he carried on riding. He got a lot better than me because there was a lot of time where I couldn't ride a bike and he continued practicing. Yeah, so he had a bit of advantage, but he's also got the advantage of like size, strength, 2 dangly things between his legs. But I give him a run for his money now. I really do. Like the last hard enduro race we both did together, I think it was at Combe Quarry, and we basically went, right, let's just ride it on our own. And it was like tig, tag, tig, tag, tag, tig, all through the race. And then literally, I don't know, 200 meters from the end, I got stuck in a rock garden and he freaking went past me.
So who's the fastest then, the Ruck family or Biker Ed?
Oh, I don't know, because I haven't ridden with Biker Ed recently.
He's fast.
Because there's this thing, like if you rode with me a year ago or 2 years ago, is a totally different question to riding with me now. Because I have put so much focus and training and determination to try and become a better rider in the last 3 years. I mean, literally, 6 years ago, I went off-road for the first time. 3 years ago, I was a complete Bambi. And 2 years ago, I did Red Bull Romaniacs.
Wow.
So when I signed up for Red Bull Romaniacs, having done the Valleys Extreme Hard Enduro in South Wales, which is my favourite UK race, when we signed up for Red Bull Romaniacs, we had just done that hard enduro event. We were on the drive on the way home and we were like, how do we get more of this? We were hooked. It was like someone had just put a shot of something in our blood and we needed more of that pain. And pain's the only way to describe it. It's disgusting. Hard enduro is just brutal. You've got a massive bike, stupid obstacles. You're terrified for 90% of the race. On the start line of Valleys Extreme, I'd say 20 meters in front of you was a man-made plastic pipe between your knee and your hip height that you had to get over with a crowd of a few hundred people right there. And you're like, well, I'm going to die 20 meters from the start. This is a great idea, Vanessa. Why are you on this start line? But anyway, before we got home, we had signed up for Red Bull Romaniacs, and there was absolutely no way I was going to survive that race at that time. But with that goal set, I was going to have the motivation to train. And that's what we did. Yeah. And I finished.
And during them, do you find them incredibly frustrating during the race? Or do you enjoy the whole thing? Or what's your sort of mental attitude towards it whilst you're doing it?
I don't think I enjoy the whole thing because there's a lot of fear and it's really hard. But the satisfaction you get when you make it to the end and you finish is absolutely huge. I've never taken ecstasy, but I can imagine that's basically what you're doing, right? You just feel you feel so proud, so alive, you're buzzing, and you're absolutely shattered. And as someone who's kind of gone through my adult life addicted to extreme sports and adrenaline, that kind of physical and mental exhaustion is something I love so much. And a lot of people are like, what, your body aches and you can barely move. And I'm like, yeah, but because you had so much fun. And then you get stronger and you learn.
When I watch it, it just looks absolutely brutal.
Good description.
Yeah, it just looks, and frustrating. I would find it so frustrating. I don't know if I could cope with it.
Well, I think some of the thing that makes it frustrating to me is that if you were to take the terrain itself and have just you pootling around, you could do it so much more easily than when you add another 100 bikes, because you'll come round and you'll get to the bit where you've picked a line through the rock garden and there'll be some guy upside down with his bike on its side and you're like, but that's my line. And you're like, well, I probably shouldn't use his head, so I'll have to pick a new line. It just makes it so much harder. Or there's a hill climb, and I don't know about you, but I'm very good at target fixation. So if there's a guy halfway up, or it could be a girl, sorry, if there's a person halfway up on the hill, almost guaranteed my bike is going to go, cool, should we go sit on top of them? And you're like, I was actually planning to get to the top bike, but thanks. Cool. Now we'll just do a really awkward recovery and sorry, mate. Oh dear.
What kind of bike were you on for that?
I started on a Husqvarna 150 TE, so a little two-stroke. Then I moved to the 250, and that's what I did the Red Bull Maniacs on, and that's Buddy, who I've still got now. I have played with the idea of getting the 300. The 300 would definitely make life easier for me because it's got so much more grunt than the 250, especially when you start doing big hill climbs. But by having the slightly smaller bike, I have to work a lot harder, be much smarter on the bike. So I'm just choosing to stick with the 250 because it will help my progression more than having a bigger bike that makes you a bit lazier.
Yeah.
Now, listeners might argue with that. That's my theory from my experience and people I've spoken to. So sorry if you disagree, but...
Light is right. There's fools and their big bikes. There was a second part of my question as to who's fastest. Out of Ollie, we're contractually obliged to mention him in every podcast. So out of Ollie Moto and HB2 Mav, who do you think is the slowest?
Awkwardly long pause. Okay, who do I want to not?
You don't have to answer it.
Most?
Who thinks they're the fastest? Maybe that's the better question.
Oh, we know who that is.
Oh, this is so mean.
Yes, that's the idea.
You're making me squirm. I'm glad there's not a video on.
You don't have to answer that. That's fine.
How do you know Ollie and Mav?
Oh, Mav, this is a great story. So we met via this popular friend dating app called Instagram, and we decided to meet up on the Salisbury Plain and go for a ride. So this is my husband and Mav. The first encounter was Mav being asked by the police whether you'd seen two people on orange motorcycles, and he was like, "No, officer, I haven't." And he's like messaging us being like, "Guys, where are you? The police are after you." Yeah. We hadn't actually been illegal, but there's been reportings of illegal riding, and they thought we were those people, and so they were trying to chase us. It wasn't us, just for the record. We then go for a ride on the Salisbury Plain. The first puddle we find, Mav decides to have a swim. I've never seen someone pick up such a big bike that quickly in a puddle
ever. It's too big. It's just too big. We keep telling him.
And then from that moment, it was just fate. We knew we were destined to be friends because there was no ego. He's just an absolutely awesome guy, a lot of fun. And yeah, we've been in friends since. And we've done some amazing trips, like ridden down to Spain, stuff in Wales.
And he's a trained killer. It's always good to know a trained killer.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
I used to have a joke that he was a spy for a country that we don't talk about anymore. So
I'm glad you're getting that vibe off him as well.
He's so a spy.
Yeah, so obvious.
Especially when he comes with his Pelican case full of vodka.
I think once you've answered his questions that he's sent in, you probably won't be so kind to about him anymore.
Oh, no.
He's terrible, man. Trust me. So one thing I'd really like to talk about is obviously you're now making your living on social media, which is amazing. And I mentioned it earlier, and I'll try and do it in a slightly less obnoxious way now. Obviously, people think, well, she's not got a proper job. She's just dicking around on bikes and social media. But you put a huge amount of work and effort, and it's not a full-time job. It's almost a full-time life for you, isn't it, really? You've always got a camera in your hand, it would seem.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I suppose the real reality is that if it was easy to make a living and an income out of social media, we'd all be doing it. It takes a disgusting amount of time, commitment, energy, passion to continually document and create content. And if you think about every piece of content that goes out, there's a whole heap of content that doesn't make it out because it's refining to try and tell the story in the best way. Not saying that what I put out is filtered, but it takes time. It's not just you take one photo and boom, there's your content, especially with reels these days. But I think I'm so grateful in that somehow, when I started my Instagram account, I was actually bedbound after the accident, and I just felt like I needed something to put some energy into. And over the last few years, the amount I have got from social media, from meeting other people who are going through struggles and battles and learning from what they've sort of learned to cope with things, through for the other way around, where other people get energy and motivation and inspiration from hearing about my battles and what I go through and sharing everything. Like, you'll see me crying and upset. I don't filter and show the 4% of life like a lot of people online. I share it all, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, and try to just be really real. And so the energy that other people get from my energy kind of helps me get more energy. And that helps me cope with sort of the body that I've got and I'm going through, and sort of makes me even more determined to push on and try and show that, prove to myself that I still can, prove to the world that setbacks in life don't have to be like the end, and that it's never too late to try new things, and fears and anxieties and goal settings, all these things, bad days, it's normal. We all have struggles, you know, you're not alone kind of vibe. I'm very good at waffling on as well. I don't actually remember what the question was now.
Well, I was going to say, do you ever find it?
You answered it though very well.
I was going to say, now it seems wrong to say, do you enjoy it? But do you ever find it a bit of a burden, or are you sort of happy to do it as part of the job?
I think it can get very, very intense. I think, I mean, if you bear in mind that I don't ride to make content, and I think that's the big thing that I hope sets me apart from some other social media accounts. I am obsessed with riding, with adventure, with racing, with pushing myself, with helping other people. And so I do all of that stuff, and off that, I try and make good content to share that and, you know, help give something positive to the world. I don't want to just try and make entertainment for the sake of entertainment. I don't think social media needs any more of that. Although sometimes, yeah, I do silly things like donuts because they're really fun. But I try to add some value.
I've got a great question from our friend Will Collins.
Oh, God.
It is a good question, actually. He said, obviously, doing what you do has led to some amazing opportunities for you. You know, just having a bowler over Christmas. How amazing is that? I know. I'm so excited for you. His question was, what are your standout moments of opportunities that and things you've got to do, good or bad? Sort of what makes you go, wow, did I really get to do that?
Riding in Iceland again. Riding in Iceland again later this year. I mean, Iceland's my number one country as far as riding, terrain, breathtaking scenery, people. The bowler, as a teenager, I actually had pretty much bowler wallpaper for how obsessed I was with the bowler Wildcats.
Wow.
And now the fact that I'm going to do a UK rally round in a bowler Defender, I still try and pinch myself, and it hurts, so I must be awake. But
imagine, if you will, for a moment, that there are some people out there, idiots mainly. I mean, idiots. I don't even want to, but some people that don't even know what bowler is. I mean, I've never met any of these people, but I presume they do exist.
Oh, for God's sake!
If there was such a person,
can you tell him what a bowler is, Vanessa, please? He's an idiot. I'm sorry about my partner.
Sex on wheels, pure porn.
I'm just Googling now, sex on wheels.
Sex. Yeah, Google those things, you'll find the bowler. Okay, no, retract the better than sex. My husband's amazing, so I shouldn't say that. Okay, so it's owned by Land Rover, and it's a custom tuned vehicle where they take a donor vehicle, which is the Defender, and they turn it into a jacked up, steroided out rally car. So Bowler are actually the first and currently only production rally car out there. So you can buy a Defender and go and do a UK rally series.
So they've asked you to go and drive one of these things?
Why are you surprised? How fucking rude.
Well, I'm never surprised that anyone.
Oh my God, is it because she's a woman, Noel?
It's because
no. Honestly, though, they came to me and said this, and I was just like, how do you know I can even drive? And they're like, well, you can ride a motorcycle off-road in a desert in crazy temperatures, reading a piece of paper that scrolls on your handlebar with symbols and cap headings. I'm pretty sure you have the aptitude to drive a car. So I was like, fair, okay, fair.
So where has this happened, or are you going to do this?
No, it's not happened yet. So I've done my UK rally license, which I did in, I think it was December. So I'm now licensed to rally, kill, whatever that doesn't sound really cool. Whatever, I'm just licensed to rally. We'll stick to that. I'm there. The plan is to put me through their Bowler customer off-road training program, which will get me kind of, safe to rally. obviously the fact that I do rallying on the motorcycle side, and we haven't really touched on this so far in the conversation, but I've done, I think, 5 or 6 big desert rallies now, like full Dakar style, 475 kilometer special tests, roadbook navigation, sand dunes, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the infrastructure and the way a rally works is very similar when you go into the car world. And then the plan is to then put me into one of the UK rally round races, and I'll have a full co-pilot navigator and see if I survive, which we hopefully will. I mean, I'll have a roll cage, so what's the worst that can happen?
What could possibly go wrong?
Are they gonna make television out of this?
I wish. That would be amazing. I will document it and put it on my YouTube channel. So there's all kinds of random adventures on my YouTube channel already. If anyone wants to, it's good bedtime watching, so you fall asleep easier.
Well, tell us what you've got Instagram, you've got YouTube, TikTok, I believe, whatever that is. That's for the young people.
I'm a granny on TikTok. Yes, I am.
And you're just called The Girl on a Bike, aren't you? On all of those things.
The Girl on a Bike, or if you search Vanessa Ruck or The Girl on a Bike, you'll find me. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
So related to the bowler. Greg Villalobos has sent a question in, him off of Adventure Spec. We're not going to mention him as well, because whilst we get free kit, they're not paying for these adverts that we give them week after week after week.
Didn't we have like a list of New Year's resolutions, and 1, 2, and 3 we're not mentioning Greg?
Yeah,
not mentioning
have.
Ollie.
No Ollie Moto.
Yeah, no Ollie Moto.
No Greg Villalobos.
Yeah.
No Adventure Spec.
No Will Linson.
No. Ooh. Oh no, I like Will.
I know what you could do. Just mention The Girl on a Bike every week.
There we go. Yeah, new friends, new better friends.
Yes.
So Greg did actually ask a very nice question, and I saw your dad in the bowler with a 95-year-old, your granddad, which was fantastic. 95
and 97.
Wow, that's quite impressive.
Getting them in was the impressive part.
That's quite high, wasn't it? So what does your granddad think you do for a living?
The 95-year-old actually gets it pretty well. He thinks I'm a professional motorcycle rider, which, I mean, that's fair. My other granddad is really fixated on the fact that I just write for a magazine. He's on Facebook, but he doesn't quite grasp that I don't just write articles. Like the whole idea of making video content, etc., it just kind of goes in and out, and he just can't grasp that.
But he's very happy with the writing part, presumably. That makes him quite happy.
Yeah, but he
let's be thankful for that.
Constantly asks, like, when's your next article out? And because I'm not, like, writing articles, it's quite challenging.
Next Tuesday, just say next Tuesday.
Yeah. But saying that, they are both absolutely unbelievably proud of me and so in awe of what I'm doing and the traveling and the fact that I do this like on my own, and there's not like a man looking after me, because they are of the slightly older generation. So for a female, for their generation to be doing what I'm doing, it's a big step. And yeah, they're really proud of me. They cry quite frequently, which is very cute.
You're going to live forever with these genes.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
No one wants that.
That's amazing.
And they both have hair.
Wow.
All the best people do, even at a late stage in life. The way you described your way into racing and the way you've increased your speed and actually become competitive seems to have happened quite quickly. It'd be really interesting to know what you've actually done to improve as a rally raid rider.
Time on the bike is really important, but it's time on the bike in the right environment. Going out trail riding with friends, no offense to my friends that I trail ride with, doesn't make you faster, more capable, confident on the bike. It's the drills, it's the outside your comfort zone. And to me, massively, it's the getting on different bikes. The more I ride different bikes, the more I'm better when I get on other bikes. So for example, it's not just being on an enduro bike, it's getting on a trials bike. When I want to learn to go over a log or a big step, the trials bike is where I go, and then I turn it over to my hard enduro bike. The stuff that I do on big adventure bikes, for example, like I've just done the 1,000 Dunes Desert Rally and did it on a standard adventure bike, a Tiger 900, which was pure suicide. Going into the dunes on a bike that size, all it wants to do is duck and roll. But there's no way I would have managed some of the technical riverbeds and, you know, the rocks and the steps, the hill climbs on that bike if I didn't do the balance of trials riding and the clutch control, the throttle control, the smoothness. Because as a small female rider, most people when they meet me, they go, "Oh, you're way smaller than I thought."
I
you
was
were
going to
be."
say,
And
well,
I'm like,
how tall are you?
I'm 169 centimeters, so 5.6.
Right, wow.
5'6".
5'6".
Yeah, I thought you were taller than that.
Yeah, I assumed you
Everyone
were.
says that
Yeah.
when they meet me, and I'm just like, I think that's a thank you.
So do you lower bikes, or have you just got really good at coping with tall bikes?
Yes. So I ride a lot of bikes that aren't my bikes. So a lot of the bikes I ride are not lowered. My own hard enduro bike, I've lowered it 40 mil, and that's what I did Rebel Maniacs on. That's what I do, you know, stuff in the UK on. I've lowered it. People judge that, oh, no, you've got lower ground clearance and your suspension's going to not be right. And it's like, whatever, I can reach the ground and I'm not going to fall off as much. The difference in the amount I fell off from that 40 mil has been huge.
Yeah.
My Honda rally bike that I did Rally to Rock on, I lowered that as well. When you're in sand and you're struggling and you can't reach the ground, you're going to fall off. And so you don't always fall off. There's a lot that I've done to learn so that when I can't reach the ground, you're using the balance, the clutch control, so that you don't need to reach the ground. But then there's also when you can make life easier for you in a situation that is brutally hard, why wouldn't you? Putting lower seats on, stuff like that. I mean, the Tiger 900 that I did the 1,000 Dunes on, completely standard. I didn't lower that at all. I had it on the lower seat setting. And actually, some of the big adventure bikes have amazingly low seats when you come from enduro, because enduro bikes are so tall and narrow. But yeah, it's the balance is something I really recommend people practice. If you think about, we mentioned just now, you know, the progression of riding, practicing the balance, the really boring slow riding control. I think I was kind of forced to practice my balance after one of my surgeries. I think it was my fourth or fifth hip surgery, and I decided to get a trials bike. Now, when I got the trials bike, it wasn't because, oh, maybe it will make me a better rider. It was actually maybe I could ride a bike a little bit sooner because it's smaller and a different type of style that's less risky for my body. You're less likely to have an explosion. I kind of got that as a way to try and get on a bike sooner. And for the first 2 months, all I could do was go out to the garage and stand on it. Sounds really lame. My husband would stand at the front wheel so it's to stop the bike falling over, to be there to catch me. And I just practiced balancing on the bike. I got to the point where I could stand stationary on the bike with no engine. And 15 minutes was my purse. My brain got bored and, I probably got lactic acid in my legs. But 15 minutes is a ridiculous amount of time to stand stationary on a bike. But when I was then able to get on a motorbike and actually ride it, I noticed how much better my riding was because my balance has improved.
That's impressive considering the bike wasn't running, because that does make it a lot easier, doesn't it?
This time next year, are you going to be in Saudi, do you think? Or ever?
I had really set my goal on trying to do that. And I think if I put my mind to it, I'd probably make it happen if I sold 2 of my arms and a kidney to pay for it.
You'd have nothing to hold on with then, would you?
Yeah, I know. It'd be pretty useless, really. There's a few reasons why I think that's not the race I want to do. Now, for me, I feel privileged to be able to do the racing and the riding that I do. And I know that I work more than anybody I know, actually, hours-wise. So it's not like I get all of this stuff for free. I work incredibly hard to do what I do, but I still know that I'm getting just incredible opportunities. And I want to be able to do things that other people can look at and go, you know what? I want to do that too. Now, me going and doing the Morocco Desert Challenge, which I'm doing in April, or I've just done the Dinaric Rally out in Croatia, the average human, the average normal being like us can go, you know what? I think I fancy doing that rally. Put some practice in, save some money for a couple of years, whatever it takes, but it's achievable for your average human being. Dakar, unfortunately, isn't. The average human doesn't have 150 grand because you've got to do qualifying races, not just the cost of Dakar, to go and do it. Women in Saudi Arabia are treated, we don't need to end that sentence, insert whatever your favorite bad word is. And me going into Saudi Arabia and showing the world that, look, females can ride and do all this stuff, that just whitewashes the world on treatment there. I don't want to support that. I also don't think, sadly, the Dakar is what it used to be. It's not got the same heritage that it used to have. And while I would absolutely love to give that a crack, and maybe if the opportunity actually arose, I might change my mind. But the other thing is I don't actually know if my body would handle it. I push my body incredibly hard. The 8-day rallies that I've done, I can't do without painkillers. My body is not an ideal pain level when I race like that. And I think there's some things that I don't need to put my body through as well. I think I've got a little bit of a reality check in the last couple of years of what's worth pushing through. And so I don't know. I'm not against it, but I don't think I'm fighting for it. I think there are better races. I think that's the key thing. 5 hours of road every day.
Like I say, it's a version of the original ethos, isn't it? And there's probably other events that are closer to the original version than the actual thing itself.
Even like the Morocco Desert Challenge.
It does look ridiculously hard. I mean, just crazy. And I'm really happy you said that thing about Saudi. Yeah, because I've written to the Dakar organisers a number of times saying I'm boycotting your rally. I'm not going to watch it. I actually am watching it because I love it, but
we won't tell anyone.
Don't tell them that. So should we get on to the questions from our mutual friends?
Okay.
Jason Marcos, age 12, from the Cotswolds. On Instagram, he's known as HP2Mav. Asks, who are your
He's lying. He's only 11.
Who are your favourite Instagrammers?
Oh, my goodness. Loaded question, isn't it? I think there's an answer that's desired here.
Go on, say it.
Kim Kardashian. That's a lie. I don't follow her. No, you know what? I absolutely love Billy Bolt. I think he is a breath of fresh air in the motorcycle industry as far as, you know, bringing awareness and energy, personality, ridiculous humor and stuff to a sport that's actually pretty niche and not all that known. So I've got a lot of respect for Billy Bolt.
You're going to have to say HP2Mav as well, aren't you?
Oh, I said that first. You
okay, right. I was probably talking over you.
You edited it out, didn't you?
Andrew Seaton, 14, from Anglesey, asks, do you prefer trips with Mav or seats?
Oh, my God. You know what? I like it with a threesome. That's my favourite.
Good answer. Right. Alex, who's actually one of our Patreons, said, does doing social media stop you from enjoying things as much as you might otherwise? Does it take you out of the moment?
No, because I wouldn't be in the moment if I wasn't doing social media. I think it all knits together, and I'm able to do these things because of the platforms and being able to share it and show the world what's out there and inspire them to go and try riding or go to that place, etc. Yeah, I'm sure if I put my phone away and enjoyed the moment more, I'd get more from the moment, but I wouldn't have the moment in the first place.
That's a great answer. And it's interesting you should mention inspiration, because they did actually send some sensible questions in as well. So Jason asks, people do look to you for inspiration, but who inspires you?
Oh, he's gone deep on me. Actually, it's probably going to be my best friend, Emma Wolstenholme, is a big inspiration. So she's another female go-getter rower. She attempted to solo row across the Atlantic to break the female world record. I just think she's a really great example of a human who will get rid of excuses, come up with crazy ideas, and go make them happen. And when I come up with my crazy ideas, she's the person right there behind me, cheering me on and telling me I can. And you definitely get people who have, you know, half glass empty and negative viewpoints, whereas she's like, bat those excuses out the window, let's go do some crazy shit. That's who I'm up in the Outer Hebrides with right now. I say she inspires me because she's a living example of girl power and human power of sort of getting stuff done, basically.
2 questions from Rupert. What are your thoughts about being a female in a traditionally male sport? It seems like the balance is improving. How's that been for you?
It's definitely very, very male dominated. I think my historical sports were quite male dominated as well, with kite surfing, wakeboarding, etc. But improving every year. There are more females. I still do a lot of races where I'm the only female or one of just a very small handful. I find that there's a mix of male receptions to females, as far as most people are incredibly welcoming, very excited to see a female, but you get the odd male who has maybe a slightly smaller body part and is challenged by the fact there's a ponytail. And that can lead to like prejudgments, to doing whatever they can to get past you, even if it means that they fall off in front of you or take you out. Thankfully, there's not so many of these guys. You get the guys who freak out when a girl falls off the bike. I love them because, one, they always want to try and help you pick up your bike, which is just very cute. But the reactions they have, we're like, oh my God, oh, she's falling off. And you're like, my husband will just stand and watch me and they're like, oh, aren't you going to help her? And he's like, what? Why? She got herself in that trouble. She'll ask if she needs help. And they're just like all freaked out, like wanting to try and come and help me. And he's just like, whatever, just leave her. And yeah, I love that because it's like that knight in shining armor. They don't really know what to do with themselves. But I just think overall in the industry, for me, particularly in like the off-road scene, I just get the massive majority of guys just giving me huge amount of respect for the fact that I'm out there doing it and showing women that they can too, and trying to encourage and inspire other women. I've done quite a few trips now with the company rides. I just got back from Colombia, and it's an all-female trip organizer, and I help them do some training for the girls, etc., trying to make and inspire more women to get out there, because sometimes girls are more comfortable in a female environment trying and pushing new things. And I just think there's more and more opportunities to showcase that us girls can do it too. Yes, we tend to be lighter and smaller and not as strong. Yes, we tend to have slightly higher self-preservation or worry factors. They're all stereotypes. I mean, yes, the bike tends to be heavier body to weight ratio, but actually girls also tend to have a much more refined riding capability because we're a bit more delicate and controlled. It's obviously a bit of a broad brush. You can't say all males and all females ride in certain ways, but actually I think it's incredible when you do start riding with females, like how much they listen, how much they can refine and learn and improve, and how quickly they learn. There just seems to be less ego, or I don't know. I'm not telling you that you guys have egos. I'm digging myself in right holes here. The main fact I'm trying to say is that females can do all of this absolutely just as much, and there's a load of men out there that have absolutely no problem with females getting out there and doing it with them. They're supportive, they're kind, they're encouraging. And I think it's awesome. We just need to get more girls doing it. And the biggest problem, I think, sorry, this is the long answer. I'm on a roll here. But the biggest thing I think is a problem with females in the motorcycle industry is a large majority of females have their first encounter on a motorcycle with some spotty 17-year-old who is trying to prove something. They're on the back like a little monkey trying to hold on, and it's terrifying. And they have that first encounter and they don't like bikes. And that's something I think we need to try and shift away from, because, I mean, I'd be terrified if I went on the back of a bike like that. But riding a bike on your own is nothing like that.
Steph Jevons said exactly the same thing. Because she does quite a bit of coaching at her place in Wales. And she said a all-women group are far easier to teach, because there's none of that ego there that, oh yeah, I've done it before, I can go really fast. Me, they all listen and they'll do what you ask them to do, and they all improve massively because of that. And it's a much more supportive environment as well.
What was your upbringing like? Were you sort of brought up to sort of believe that you could just do what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, I had an older brother and 2 cousins, both male, my age and my brother's age, and I grew up as the girl with the 3 guys. My parents never told me I couldn't do things. They just put me in with the guys. I was made stronger, let's just say that, by having 3 older siblings. You know, when my brother got a BB gun, little sister's a really good target, apparently. And things like, we used to go on holiday to Wales every year. That was our annual family holiday. And we used to kayak in this estuary at Newport, the little Newport. But the tide and the current was too strong. I couldn't handle, I was much smaller than my older sibling, brother, cousins, and I couldn't handle the current. So instead of my parents telling me, right, it's not safe, you can't kayak, they just put me on a really long rope. And okay, I had to be careful going around all the little boats that were moored up. But they didn't tell me I couldn't do it because I was a girl and I was smaller and I was a weaker. It was a rule, let's just adapt slightly. Find a way that you can do it too. If you're going to fall out of that tree, it's going to hurt, but go on then. They never told me I couldn't do things because I was a girl or treated me different because I was a girl. I still wore little dresses and had Barbie dolls, and I loved My Little Ponies. And it was like, I had sparkly nails. You can do both. You don't have to be a boy or a girl. That's a weird one to say. Hang on, you know what I mean? You don't have to be a tomboy or a girl.
Yeah.
Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah, you can say that. But Noel looks really inspired by that. You can let yourself go, Noel. Be yourself, mate.
I did my nails today.
Listen, we've been recording for an hour and 15. So at this point, what typically happens, Vanessa, is I try and stop the recording and Noel, go on, just do it.
I've just got one question.
Fuck's sake.
The Harley Davidson. What's the Harley Davidson that you've still got?
So I've got a Dyna Street Bob called Thug. So it's just shy of 1,700cc, 320 kilos, beautiful per. Like, she's just gorgeous. I got her standard, customized for myself. I've done a stage 1 and a stage 2 upgrade. So I put high performance cameras, push rods, lifters, etc. on it. She's beautiful.
And is that on the road every year?
Last year we did 10 miles. We went and got an MOT and back. My mission this year is to ride her a little bit more, but I've done like 25,000 miles on her since I got her after the accident. So it's not like she hasn't been ridden.
And is any of that holiday miles or just tripping around home?
A lot of holiday miles. I've probably ridden it in 15 countries across Europe, ridden it down to Croatia. Yeah, I've done a lot of miles on her. Yeah.
We still might be Harley riders, Clive. I still think there's a chance.
I would definitely have one in the garage if I could afford it.
Which one would you go for?
I'm not. I don't even know them well enough to say which one, but one of the really big ones, but without the fairings on. I don't like the fairings.
Terminator one. See you on that. But it's a V-twin configuration. Is it yours? Presumably.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's called Thug.
Thug.
All my bikes have names.
Don't get me started on that.
No, I can't get behind naming inanimate objects, I'm afraid. No. Sorry, Vanessa. No.
It's weird.
But you build such a relationship with them.
I know, but it just seems
and
wrong.
Then sell them.
Do it.
Have you not heard of N+1?
Do the names come?
Yeah. You've seen his garage. You see his collection.
Yeah.
Do the names come to you, or do you sort of make them out of the number plate, or how does it work?
Is this another question?
It was another question. He's cheeky. He's like shot it in there. So Thug was named by the number plate. When I got it, she had Thug. Buddy just came about probably me in a race playing with him to be friends with me. Like, come on, buddy, we got this. Sometimes the names like more related to what they look like. So like my mountain bike's called Woody because he's kind of reminds me of the woodpecker.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. My sister names all her vehicles, cars and vans and things. And every time she sort of calls one of her cars by its name, I always just have to mutter under my breath, the van.
Well, so our cars have names, but like our Mercedes Viano camper van is just called Murky. But like that's just because she's a Murky. Yeah. Like it's Murky. It's not really a name, but it's a name.
Well, I get really upset when my wife refers to the dog or talks to the dogs and go and ask Daddy. It's like, I'm not their fucking dad. I'm a human. They're dogs. It's ridiculous.
He's the
Does
daddy.
she do that? God,
she
my
does
goodness.
do that. Yeah.
I would have not have thought she would be that sort of person.
She's totally that.
Leave her. You'll have to leave her.
What does doggy have to ask Daddy?
I don't, it's usually for dinner or to go for a walk or let him out for a wee or something like that.
Oh.
And they're called Otis Redding and Eddie Jones, my dogs. And that's the thing.
That's
You can't.
a long name to shout across the park.
Well, the thing is, you take them to the vets and they just assume they've got the same surname as you, and of course they haven't. They're not my children. That's Eddie Jones. because that's his name, and that's Otis Redding. It's not Otis Barber.
Do you ever say
I've
to
never
the
heard of a dog having a surname.
no?
Of course they do.
Does she ever say to the dog, "We don't like that man, do we?"
Not when I'm around, no. I'm sure
Okay,
she
no,
does, but maybe when you come round. Oh, Vanessa, this has been really good. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your break. It's going to be a cracking podcast, I think. There's some fantastic content there. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on.
No, thank you.
It's been great.
It's been great.
And hopefully our paths will cross with our mutual friends at some point. We'll get to ride together even. You never know.
That would be awesome. We should just organise that and make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there we go. We're back. It's quite good to get the first one of the new year out of the way. We're recording again next week, so we should keep the episodes coming up on a fairly regular basis. Another cracking guest lined up next week. Somebody I've not met before. Really looking forward to talking to him. Somebody that I consider probably one of the best moto YouTubers in the UK. Without a doubt, I reckon. He's great. So really looking forward to talking and meeting him. If you've enjoyed what you've heard so far and you want more of it, please consider joining up to our Patreon or buying us a coffee. It's probably enough for a beer in the north, actually, but hopefully that's not a problem. Also, we've got a load of merch available through our website, which is www.tampodcast.com. So T-shirts and buffs and stickers. We're running short of some of them, but have a look, see what's there. Awesome. See you next week. Love you, bye. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really appreciate what we do, you could consider supporting us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. Links are available on our website, which is tampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, where we also have a limited selection of branded stuff. But either way, please keep listening and spreading the word. See you next time.